Howdy and welcome back to my aircraft channel. For me, it's been about 3 weeks since I've last done a video. For you, it's only going to be 1 week. And that means I've done a lot in those 3 weeks. Originally, I was going to stop filming for a short while because I've got 2 wings to build. So I don't need to show you drilling and deburring 2 wings. So I was going to do most of 1 wing and then start on the second and see where we go. But the reality is the project slowed down. Initially when I was building the elevators, horizontal stabilizers and rudder, progress went really fast, a lot faster than you would expect. Things really go together, and also new project, lots of motivation, right? But now I've reached that point where it's not so easy to stay motivated, and it's easy to come out to the garage and look at a wing that's overhanging my tables, both ends. It is sitting on blocks full of holes, some that don't line up very well, and to just be overwhelmed. And I think, like a lot of big projects, you have to take it one step at a time, and that's going to have to be a little bit of a mindset shift. I can't come out here and stare at a big wing and look at all the things I haven't done, but instead find one thing that I can do, one line of holes that I can drill, or one line of holes that I can do something with. And so the project's reached that point where it needs to be a little bit more detail oriented. And that means it's also a good time to talk about the direction of this channel. The goal was not to show you how to assemble one of these kits. In fact, I personally don't watch any YouTube channel that assembles one of these kits. Why would you watch someone assemble a kit when you might just want to put the kit together yourself? But that wasn't the main purpose of doing this channel. I wanted to do something different with my build, and different because it's fun. It involves thinking about things and being creative and engineering, and it's just different. Something to make my project mine. And for me, that's going to be all in the electrical system. I plan to do something quite different and unconventional and pretty much freestyle the entire electrical system of the aircraft. It means not buying a complete stack of avionics, but instead making things from scratch. That's designing circuits, manufacturing PCBs, and doing all of the wiring and software design myself. I come from a background in software. My day job is as a software engineer, so I'm very comfortable in software and becoming increasingly comfortable in hardware and circuit design. A big component of that is in testing and making things resilient and redundant, and all in all, I enjoy it. It's fun. It takes a long time, but it's fun, and it doesn't cost too much. It costs more than you'd think to buy chips, especially when you smoke them, but it is a lot of fun. And so the purpose of this channel was always to look at that side of the build. The story is building a kit aircraft in my garage, but the story isn't here's me following the plans and sticking together a Lego house. It's, yeah, I'm building an aircraft, but here's all the little details that go along with that, all of the systems, the circuits, and the detail of those designs. So from now on, the videos might change slightly. It's not all going to be big, long time lapses of throwing together lines of rivets. How many lines of rivets look different from each other, But instead looking at the nuance involved in putting together different parts of the kit. And then there'll be more videos that focus specifically on some of the systems, whether it be circuit design, software design, or otherwise. I will try not to make them too technical. I could certainly do videos on writing a piece of software for the aircraft from scratch, but it might not be too engaging to a general audience, and not many of us will be software engineers. But I think I can still distill those projects down into a format where it's interesting to learn about how I'm approaching the problem and see some of the aspects of the software, but really focus on the creativity that goes into designing such systems and some of the process of that. With all of that said, though, I will catch you up to some of the different parts that I've been working on the wing and where I'm at with it. Currently, the wing is sitting upside down. I've got it on 4 beams, 4 steel beams down there, and I put a piece of MDF. I cut some slices of this MDF that's got a painted finish on it and put that on the top of them. So that works quite well to give it a soft-ish surface for it to sit on the table. The rear edge at the moment is supported by blocks. I've got a line of blocks down there to hold this up because of course there's this curve in the wing. So with that sitting like that, the front can sit more flat, or where this spar goes, this main spar that goes right the length down near the front of it, that can sit on the blocks at the front. I have drilled, final sized all of the holes on the top of the wing. So that's on the bottom at the moment. All of the holes into all the ribs. So for example, well, not these ones because there's a skin that goes here. That's complicated, but all of the ribs further down, you'll be able to see some down there, all of the ribs going down there, and the skin. So that's all final sized down there, and it's currently flipped over with the bottom of it up to final size and drill into the skin all of these holes that you see clecoed right now, and all the holes in between. The first thing to do before I start drilling anything though is to make sure it's level, because if it's not level then there could be twist in the wing. One of the easy ways to check is to just look down the edge and see how straight it is, which that looks pretty straight. But I do have a level that I did the same technique when I had the wing the other way around, but I'll show you what that looks like now. And then the plan is to drill this line of rivets all the way down on the trailing edge. Got some trusty snacks, some frozen blueberries, great snack, and an apple. So with that, let's get stuck into it. So what I've been doing is putting it along the trailing edge, like so, and seeing what we read out. So there we're getting 0.15 degrees. And that's 0.1. I've also been running the level down the length of the wing here. I'm going to push down this front edge because it sticks up on the skin. That's going to be something to resolve. But there, so we're at 6.05 degrees there. Move it down a bit. Five point 6 degrees. So very close. 5.55. 5.6. .75, fairly close to 6. And 6 degrees here. So we might be a little flat in the middle. Six degrees there. There's a little bit of a flex across this front edge, and of course there's actually a slight curve along the wing like that. So it makes it kind of hard to get an accurate reading. Just by changing where I put a little bit of pressure, I can get that to read 6. think that's level enough, is what I call that. If I were to have this mounted on an aircraft that's in airworthiness condition, looking down the length of that wing, I don't think I would have any complaints about how straight it is. One of the critical dimensions for this trailing edge is its distance to the flaperon support arms, which there's 4 of. There's one down the end, 2 in the middle that aren't placed, and then the one down the end. So what that looks like is the distance from trailing edge to the center of that hole, which for this one is about 79 millimeters. And then to go down the end to this one, it's about 80 millimeters. In fact, possibly just over. So there's a difference there of a few millimeters. But one of the things about this kind of a kit is there's so much pre-drilled. So these holes only line up one way, trailing edge through skin, through rear channel, and it's the same on the other side. So the position of this trailing edge really can't be tweaked very much at all. Like, you could maybe put a bit of pressure on it to put the holes on the other edge, because they do get enlarged very slightly. So in theory you could move them along slightly, but the reality is you just can't move it very much. And that's the case of a lot of bits of the kit, where it'll give you a dimension for something like this that you've got to measure up, and it's meant to meet that spec. And usually nothing's been wildly out so far. Like, a millimeter difference between them isn't going to be critical. In fact, I think that's within the tolerances given in the construction specifications. But sometimes it's just a little strange to measure something that's not quite right, and at the same time you can't do much about it because all the holes are drilled and lined up. So you just got to put it together as it is. But with all of that checked, let's go through and do some actual work, drill out this line of holes. It's A5 rivets up to this point here, because that is where a bracket, this one here, goes in that slot and goes right in. And that's part of the struts. So there's a strut from there that goes, because this is the bottom of the wing, strut will go all the way up there to fuselage attach point, lower fuselage attach point, somewhere up there. And then the other strut, the main strut, comes in that hole up there, which is a little bit more, well, it's connected to the main spar, so there's a lot more load that it can take from that one. Although this one's still fairly chunky, and there's, hopefully I'll show you when I take the trailing edge off, but there's doublers and things in the rear channel that goes along here as well. But that's probably more than enough talking. I should spark up my air compressor, wake the neighbours up. It's past 12 AM now, and drill some holes. Well, there it is. I've done something today. Anything at all. Progress is progress. Just pick small goals and actually achieve them, I guess. You may have noticed that I put these marks beside all the original Clecos, because I don't have one in every second hole. So it's not as easy as just moving them down, because I forget which ones I've drilled and which ones I haven't. And it's especially pronounced with the smaller A4 rivets, the ones down there, where the only way you can tell if you've drilled it is whether the rivet fits in there, because the increase in size from the factory drilled ones to what you're expanding them to is really not much. And the added benefit of having these marks is I also remember, cool, I've gone and drilled that line. So that's where I'm at. I might have time to do something tomorrow, and if I do, then I will probably be doing these ribs. So drilling the lines there, there. So rib 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I also have work to do on this wingtip, which can be a little bit challenging. You've just got to take your time, which is true of most things. If it gets difficult, you've just got to slow down and take your time to get the fitment right and find what place actually works. So I've got because I've drilled all of the top of the wing, so what's underneath at the moment, I've got all of that fastened into the holes. That's all looking good, fits well. And then I need to throw the skin piece that goes on here and get all this line of holes into this wingtip sorted. The reason I think that there's this extra piece at the side rather than this bottom skin, the main bottom skin, just continuing right the way to the edge, is because on the inside there's this L angle, that piece there, which this wingtip also gets riveted, 4 rivets through there into that, as well as any lights or other equipment that you want to put there, having access to that by removing this panel, which is it's a fair amount of rivets. You could certainly put an access panel here, but it's doable. You're not left trying to take a lot of the skin off or a whole wingtip, or maybe the wingtip would be easy to take off. I don't know. Nah, there'll be less rivets in there surely. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I've done something today, I've made progress, and that should be enough to keep the motivation going. I apologise if this is a little bit of a jump from the last video, from what we were working on to a wing being pretty much, the skins are on. You'll see it with the skins off. It needs taken apart to get filed and painted and what have you. So you'll still see it, but I do apologise for the jump if it's been a little bit jarring. From now on, I think the project, or the documentation of this project on YouTube, should be a little bit more focused. And I've had time over the last few weeks to think about what I want to show on the channel and get back to why I want to show it and create something that's more focused. And hopefully for the 5 of you who consistently watch these, I hope the project is still entertaining and still enjoyable and you still enjoy watching it. But by all means, I guess, leave a comment if it's not, and maybe I'll be able to adjust and show more of what you like and leave out some of the bits you don't. But at the end of the day, the channel was always for me, and if anyone online enjoyed it and found the project interesting, then that was going to be a bonus. But I've got to get back to basics, stick true to my core, my values, and why I'm doing this, and that'll mean that I can get the enjoyment that I expect out of this, and I hope you find some enjoyment too. So with that, I think that's the end of this video, and the next one will be probably on more systems, electrical systems, and some of the plan for that, which should be interesting, should be quite fun.